Matt, for you and I, we are in the biz, so to say. So we are often contacted by publicists or PR reps that are trying to push either products or ideas or their own people in terms of experts. It is often people. And people who do not have either the deep pockets or maybe the know-how to go out and, craft their own sort of publicity scheme may, in fact, find our two next guests and their book quite helpful. Daniel and Steve Shehori join us now. They have written a book called Media Horror, which is essentially, and I think the title sort of speaks for itself, but it's how to sell yourself, right? And how to sell yourself to the media.
That is absolutely, and good morning, and thank you so much for having us here. Absolutely.
We finally could say horror on the radio.
Good.
Yeah, we've been waiting.
You said it twice in our last name.
Yeah.
In the Shehori.
Well, that's a wild card, though. We don't count that.
That's fair. These are fair rules.
So, guys, let's get to it. Because, tell us about, Supriya and I, as she says, we both have a lot of experience with what we'd call professional PR people. And one guy yesterday, if I can pick an example, he could definitely use your help, because what he did was he emailed me and he was like, hey, I've written a book and I'm available for interviews. And it was like 7 paragraphs down that he actually told me anything useful or interesting.
Right.
All that he told me first basically was a resume. And there was nothing in it to grab my attention. The only reason I kept reading it is because it was a textbook example of how not to get my attention.
Yeah.
I feel bad for the guy, but that's, I think, one of the primal rules. Primal? Sure, let's make it primal. It's a primal rule of not bearing the lead, to use the old journalism term. You want to get everything out within the first paragraph and say, look, here's the who, what, where, why, when. But also frame that in a way that's enticing, that's not just this dispassionate journalism style, but very intriguing, but also not being a carnival barker and making it seem so completely insanely crazy that people are going to say, okay, you sound like you're trying to sell me a car right now.
How do you get attention? And this is something Supriya would be able to speak about more than I do, because you've actually worked in a comm shop. How do you get the kind of attention you want? Because these days, actually kind of going out there and saying, hey, I have a service or I have a product or I have some expertise and I would like to be a part of your radio program, or I'd like to write in your newspaper, on your website. It's very difficult to do that. These days, people tend to get attention when they do something and it gets retweeted 100 million times, usually to their detriment.
We don't always assume that everybody is going to be interested in what we're doing, but we've been doing what we've been doing, for whether it's from our comedy or this type of work, long enough that somebody always will. So we're not going to burn bridges by being impatient. So if this show is not interested in this book, we understand, we respect that, but somebody is going to, and I'm going to come back to the show the next time I have something else. So we're being respectful, we're being somewhat persistent, but we know when to take no for an answer.
We're not going to send you an angry email and say,
we're not,
screw you guys. Why didn't have us? Oh, sure, yeah.
Long it took to write this book. Why? I can't believe you're not no, we're not doing that. Because again, we're going to come back to you in a few months with something else. Because as we like to tell people, what we're doing, this book is very important to us, but it's not as important as what we're going to be doing next.
Right.
Well, and I find what's interesting about this is the way you've written the book is so that anybody can sort of pick it up. You don't necessarily need industry experience or know-how to be able to learn from this.
It's what your parents have taught you. It's being nice. It's being respectful to you. We understand that people in the media are inundated with requests, so we put ourselves into your mindset of, it'll be very easy for a show like this to dismiss us if we were being rude, if we're being disrespectful, if we're being impatient, because you have a nonstop steady stream of people trying to get your attention.
Well, and also to Matt's point of the guy who sent, the 7-paragraph email, not getting to the point fast enough so that you're just like, oh, TLDR, it's too long, I didn't read it.
An acronym I just learned yesterday, funny enough. So, and that's really true. And it's about the politeness, like Dan mentioned, and these basic social tenets that you should already know, but also just filling in the gaps with some administrative stuff that a lot of creative folks or small business owners, entrepreneurs may not know about.
Because, one thing I want to mention is Supriya's point, the whole too long didn't read thing. This has been studied. Marketing companies have spent big money on this. When someone opens an email, you've got, 5 or 6 seconds to get their attention? And that sounds about right to me. Look at a subject line. I open the email. I glance at the opening sentences, and I make the decision in about 5 seconds if I keep reading or if I just click delete.
That's it.
In 2017, it's absolutely. Yeah.
I was going to say, we joke about how the media, you should treat them like ADD-riddled toddlers, and not in a disrespectful way, because you're not that. But that is, you have such an influx of, you gave the kind of sign.
I gave the hand wavering gesture there.
But it's something where you don't have that time and you're going to act that way because that's the only way you can do your job effectively.
Now, you mentioned something interesting. Now, you offered up as 2 examples of someone who could benefit from the kind of the book you guys written and the experience you've had as creative types and small business people. And there's some overlap between the 2 groups. I wouldn't say there's a ton. I think you're dealing with very different animals when you're looking at small business owners and creative types. But they do have one thing in common, at the very least. They got to get a message out there, and they often don't have the bucks to go the big route. How do you guys approach them? And also, who do you think would benefit from your kind of approach?
Anybody who has anything that they wish to speak, that they want to share with the masses. Again, the common thing is that they want to be on a show like this. You know, there are thousands and thousands of people in this city alone that would love to be sitting where Steve and I are talking to you guys about this. So this is for anybody in any field that wants to do that. So again, there's no tricks or tactics in this book. It's be nice, be respectful, be clear and to the point. So this applies to anybody doing anything. The very first thing you ever do might not get you on a show like this, but over time, you're being consistent, you're being persistent, and you will be here.
And guys, why don't you tell me what's coming up this Saturday for you?
Thank you. We are going to be at the Second
plug.
City doing the book live on stage, essentially, at the John Candy Box Theater from 12 to 5 at the Second City Theater. All book and seminar information is at mediahore.me.
.me. Media Whore Me.
Media Whore Me, and we got that. We got 4 times on the air. So this is a banner morning for us on the radio show. Guys, thanks so much for coming in. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Good to have you. Daniel and Steve Shehori joining us here, and the book is Media Whore.